with eagerness to show to the world and make it understand all the efforts, move and acts which Africans had taken onto the agenda of ending colonial brutal regimes in their countries. Ibrahim Husein in 1969 came up with the play of KINJEKITILE, the play which aimed on showing all the efforts which Africans had employed on fighting against colonialism in their countries. And so far, the play was into the aim of showing the humiliative, the brutality, and the exploitative nature of the colonial regimes in African continent. So far, this book was really inspired with Maji War, one among the rebellions which were the very first to ever been fought against colonialism in East Africa. And as the Maji War was fought in southern Tanzania, which is now known as Kilwa, and expanded to the other areas, the book has taken the very same setting and put it into the use. And the setting of the book, the main setting, it is Ngarambe village, the place where it is referred to be the settlement for Matumbi's tribe. And just know that KINJEKITILE, the name of our book, it also the same to the name of the rebellion leader of Maji War, that was called KINJEKITILE Ngwale. So you shall learn that in the book KINJEKITILE is also found, and KINJEKITILE, the character of our book, is the main character and also reflects the KINJEKITILE Ngwale, who was the rebellion leader of Maji War. Maji War was fought in the year of 1905 up to 1907. And I can tell you that in order to understand this book, it is very important for you to understand the background of Maji War, and so it shall bring you into much understanding of this play, as I've already told you that this play is mainly inspired by Maji War onto the aim of showing the humiliative brutality and exploitative nature of colonial regime in Tanzania, the then Tanganyika. And again, it shows the efforts which Africans had employed onto the agenda of ending colonial rule into their countries. And so starting with the background of Maji War, the Maji War was a war against colonialism which was fought on the year of 1905 up to 1907. The leader of the war, or maybe we can say the initiator of the rebellion, was KINJEKITILE Ngwale. You know, apart from suffering much brutality, humiliation, oppression, and every kind of segregation from whites, Africans had their other common problem, and that common problem was the problem of tribalism and disunity. So the Africans, and specifically Tanzanians, had no unity, and they were tribalistic at very big extent, the thing which made easy for them to be ruled by the colonialists. So by the time KINJEKITILE emerged to solve the problems as being a spiritual intellect, and we can say, or maybe a witch doctor, after drowning into a river for a whole day, he came out while dry and into his hands carrying some water and some medicines. You see, those medicines, the water which he was carrying, it was meant to come and make salvation to the people and make them unite together so that they would fight against the Germans in the then Tanganyika German territory, which is now called Tanzania. But people came to misconcept the water, as they thought like water would save them directly from the bullet. But According to KINJEKITILE, the water was meant just to unite them and to give them purpose for the to fight for their liberty for their freedom. But people misconcepted and thought like they would blindly fight against the wise. And when they claim the name maji, that is water in Kiswahili, if they say water, those bullets maybe would turn into water and save them from death, something which even KINJEKITILE had no idea or clue with. So he opposed on the idea of depending water to save them in front of the bullet, but the people had blind faith over water, which KINJEKITILE was given by Hongo. Hongo is among the demons which connect people to their gods. So Hongo had given those water and medicine to KINJEKITILE just to act as a symbol for unification or means for unifications and solidarity among the people. And sure, those water came to unite all the people in the southern part of Tanganyika, and they entered into a fight. The very big mistake which they did by the time, it was fighting, coming out on the battlefield, declaiming the word water, maji, thinking that those water which they had drunk maybe would save them from dying with bullets of the whites. So people witnessed very many deaths and others while being hanged. You see, it ended being a very big loss which they had ever witnessed. And so from the time, it weakened and also maybe it decreased the Tanganyika's population, and so far it weakened the movements against colonialism in the country. And so Ibrahim, after attaining independence of Tanzania, came into idea of telling the world how Africans had fought or how Africans had perceived colonialism through the story of Maji War. And I can tell you that this play, KINJEKITILE play, was the first ever to be written and performed in Swahili language. So we can say that this is a landmark to Tanzanian theater, since it is the first play ever to be written and performed in Swahili language. So at first the play was written in Swahili language. Later on, the playwright himself translated this into English language. And so the book of which we are going to analyze and to review today, it is the one which written in English. So we shall deal with the one with English version. And jumping in directly into analysis, we shall first start with the plot of the play, then follow with the other parts. But before entering there, please, I beg you to hit the subscribe button just to show support to what we are doing. Going to the very first stage of our play, you know, plays have always as you know, plays are always presented in 5 stages. The first stage is exposition, the second is rising action, the third is climax, the fourth it is resolution, and the last it is denouncement. We shall start with exposition. On the exposition stage of this play, we are being presented to the main characters, and we are being presented to the setting and the mood of our story in whole, all in general. We are being presented to Mrs. Kitunda, of which in Kiswahili you can say B. Kitunda. Bikitunda is with her child, her daughter, that is Chausiku, and after when she sees smoke from the kitchen of Kinjekitile's residence, he sends Chausiku to go and look if they are cooking food so that they can beg some to eat. And it is at this point we are being revealed to the truth that Africans are now suffering from hunger, are in famine, as colonialists are making them spend much hours on cultivating the colonialists' farms, or the white monks' farms, and they lack even little time to go and walk onto their private farms so as to cultivate their food. As a result, at this point, Chausiku, while trying to approach Kinjekitile's residence, she's being chased out with the snake, of which the snake is seen to her, but her mother does not see the snake. And then Mrs. Kinjekitile appears from the other side, and then she greets them and asks maybe what were they were in need with. So they ask even for a little food if they have. Bikinjekitile also, Bikinjekitile, if I say Bikinjekitile, I mean Mrs. Kinjekitile, also reveals to them that they have none. You see, they don't have food. As the smoke which they can see from the distance, it is the smoke coming from the kitchen, as Kinjekitile is cooking some herbals, is making his herbals. And I've already told you at the beginning of the video that Kinjekitile was a spiritual intellect, or maybe you can say a witch doctor. So he was making some herbals at the kitchen, and so they both talk about the hunger which is facing the village, and they discuss about the other children who have died from eating the poisonous roots, as they have been trying to eat roots of different plants just to cure their hunger after when they lack food to eat. They discuss about how the men of the village use much hours, long hours, to walk into the whites' farms. As a result, they leave their families with hunger. And it is the time we can see that men of the village are now coming out from the farm, and just on the arrival at the village, Mrs. Kitunda is being told that her husband has been severely beaten, has been injured to the farm, as he was trying to stretch his back during the working hours, and then Nyampala had whipped him. On the opposition, on trying to resist from such kind of humiliation, Kitunda tried to catch the stick of which he was being whipped with, and that triggered the askari to come and to beat him severely. So notice that the Mr. Kitunda was beaten just as he was trying to stretch his back during the working hours. And then we are taken to the other part of the scene. Right now it is rising actions. We have already been exposed to the conflicts which is there between Africans and the colonialists. We have been brought to the problem of hunger. We have been brought to the problem of or conflict or problem or issue of torture and oppression and exploitation. We have been brought to around all the themes which maybe had made this guy Ibrahim Husein to write this book. And so we are eager to know that after being faced with all these problems, what steps these guys had taken toward opposing them. You see, did they just remain silent? No, they didn't. So what did they do? We see later at night, at the very same day, men are at the meeting, and that is including Mr. Kitunda with his friends. They sat on a secret meeting talking like how they shall start a war and when. You see, these people, apart from having this brutality, torture, humiliation, exploitation from the colonialists, they have other common problem, and that is tribalism and disunity. Even during the meeting, they enter into serious stiff conflicts as for the basis, or maybe from the basis of tribalism. You see, they insult each other under the basis of tribalism. You see, their tribal differences disunite them, and even those of the same tribal, we can see that they also fail to unite. They fail to come together and to deal with some common goals, you see. So this is a very big problem they have, apart from brutality, brutal colonial regime. So after hearing someone coming from the distance, they depart from the meeting under the promise of not starting the war and meeting again later on, and maybe on the other meeting they shall discuss, or maybe they shall make the final decision of when should they start the war. Those who are opposing to start the war early, they are talking about the importance of unity. You see, they are maybe hoping that it is important for other tribes, other people to join in the movement, so that maybe they shall not be defeated easily, and maybe too much life shall not be maybe lost, you see. But those who suppose they shall start the war, they think they are enough, and maybe they shall start on their own, and others will come to join later. And we see on the coming day, on the very same night, the Mnyampala, the supervisor of Africans. This is an African who used to supervise his fellow Africans during the farm works. You see, he goes there to Kitunda's house so that he can take Chausiku and bring her to Askari, who wants to have sex with her. And it come like Kitunda is being promised maybe to be spared from farm work later on the coming day, something which Kitunda opposes at very much point, as he confronts them and they start to fight. You see, on the fight, Kitunda fails to fight the Mnyampala, as Mnyampala is with his friend, and they overpower Kitunda and his wife, and they succeed to carry Chausiku away with them. You know, during all the time of confrontation, no one in the village came out to help Kitunda, something which make Mrs. Kitunda become very furious and started to insult them after when they started to come out on the point when Mnyampala had left. They start to come and look. You see, Kitunda was laying there unconscious after being beaten onto the head, and she started to insult them like they are cowardice, they are such foolish people, they have failed to protect themselves, and now they fail even to protect their children. The whites had came, taken their land, taken their labor force, taken everything they have, and now they are taking their children, and they still locking themselves indoors. So under the reason, no one goes out to help Mr. Kitunda, the unconscious Mr. Kitunda. Later on the on the coming day, we are told that Mrs. Kitunda goes to the farm to work on behalf of her husband. So no one is required to miss the farm work even for a single day. As you can see, if a man is sick, then shall be presented with his wife. You see, Mrs. Kitunda goes to the farm so that to replace her husband. And it is during the discussion of two women of the village, they discusses about the situation at the farm. They discuss about the action of the plots being increased day after day, the portions of which people are cultivating. So if you are cultivating maybe 10 square meters, time after time, that plots are increasing as per one person. For example, from some bigger portions to be from smaller portions to bigger portions. So it is like it increases, the work increases day after day. They discusses about how their husbands return very tired after coming back from the work, at the extent of not being able to perform any sexual intercourse. This is a very dangerous thing also, as it destroys relationships in their marriages. So we are being exposed to very many problems. Later on the very particular day after when Mrs. Kitunda went to the farm to work on behalf of her husband, we are told that KINJEKITILE, after getting out from his house, as he was occupied, as he was taken by Hongo, you see, he went and drowned to a river. There he remained for a whole day, and he never came out of the river. You see, after remaining there for a whole day, they sat down, even started to hold his funeral, just to pay the last respect for him. But after a day, KINJEKITILE then comes out while dry from the river, coming out holding some water and some medicine on the other hand. And while possessed by Hongo is a demon which connects people to the gods which they are worshipping. You see, while possessed with Hongo, he speaks some things which of which is out of his control, as he is unconscious, being possessed with the demon. So he uttered that those water which he had came with, it shall unite the people. It shall give them the ability to fight the red soil. The red soil, it is the whites. And he explained that after fighting the red soil, now, after then, they shall become the children of Said. You see, something which brought some confusion, as after when he was unpossessed, after when he came to the conscious, he was told about the words which he had spoken by his friend and assistants, that is Kitunda, that you said this and this and that. And then KINJEKITILE became skeptical of whether he was really possessed by Hongo, and whether Hongo was speaking something really from God or not, because he thought like how God would need them to be free from Germans and then place them under Said. So he started to think like instead of fighting and losing lives, it is important maybe they should remain alive, but they shall learn how to just remain under the very same particular colonialists without losing people's lives. But you know, the people who has already heard him, they had already started to spread the news, and all the tribes now came across the Ngarambe village where it was the residence for Kinjekitile and Matumbi's people. Kinjekitile was Matumbi's tribe. So they come on the hope of water. You see, the words which he had spoken, wide possessed, the people had already spread them. You see, so now people had been cured from tribalism and disunity. They placed all their hopes onto the water. Something which he was really opposing it is that people, they shall not put their all hope, all faith, all blind faith upon the water. Maybe after being united, we shall think of proper ways on fighting the Germans. You see, something which his colleges, including Kitunda, didn't understood him. And you see, people after coming from all the parts from Mzizima, the then Mzizima, which is now known as Dar es Salaam, people from Ngoni, people from different tribes came, and people from Kalanga came to Ngarambe village and so asked for the day to start the war. You see, Kinjekitile didn't initiate the war and didn't allow the war, but after when people became so curious on fighting, they went on fighting without being allowed with Kinjekitile, who had given the prophecy of the water. On the fight, they meet with severe loss. As you can see, they won on some several parts of the country. For example, from Ngarambe, that is in Kilwa region, up to Dar es Salaam, they fought some several wars and won. You see, then it was a time for Dar es Salaam to distract the main fault of the whites, and it is there where they were really killed and the remaining were captured. You see, these people had no any technique. Even when Kinjekitile tried to instruct them, they didn't listen. They just went running into the battlefield, claiming the word water, 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 water in Kiswahili, maji, 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 hoping that the water which they have drunk, the water which had came, the water which Kinjekitile had came with from the river, they would turn those bullets into water, something which was not right. So after being captured, the remaining ones, so many of them died. They were taken back to the cell, and in the cell we see Kinjekitile is also in there being tortured already, and he was being forced to renounce the power of the water just to make maybe an end of the rebellion. But Kinjekitile rejected, thinking or saying that renouncing the power of the water would make them come and making like fighting for freedom, presenting the idea of fighting for their freedom as a crime, and their children and their great grandchildren, they shall come on to understand that it is not right to fight for your freedom, something which was really not logical. So he kept quiet until when hanged, and we see like the play ended there. So coming on to character and characterization, you can see the main characters are very few in this book. The main characters are like 5, including Kinjekitile and Mrs. Kinjekitile, Kitunda and Mrs. Kitunda, and then you can see we have Chausiku. Kinjekitile had set as a symbol for unity and resilience in the community. You can see the water which he had came with, that portrayed the resilience of the Africans, had portrayed the hope, the trust on themselves, like the attitude they had, like if they fight, they shall win against colonialism. All that was some positive attitude which Africans had, and that is being clearly presented by Kinjekitile. And also Mrs. Kinjekitile happened to serve as an assistant to her husband, and you can see she portrayed as such a helpful wife, because all the time when her husband had visitors, she addressed her husband with respect, telling him that there are people wanted to meet him, and that played a very vital, that showed a very vital role of women's, of which they play into African societies. Again, it is Kitunda who was assistant of Kinjekitile. You see, all the time Kinjekitile had never faced the people. All the time he sent Kitunda to talk with them, as people were organizing themselves from different tribes, from Ngoni, from the Zaramo people. They wanted to hear the words from Kinjekitile, and Kinjekitile never went out to talk with them, but always sent Kitunda to go and talk to them. So Kitunda served as an assistant to Kinjekitile, a friend to Kinjekitile, but also a neighbor. But also we have Mrs. Kinjekitile. Mrs. Kinjekitile helped Mrs. Kitunda. Mrs. Kitunda served as a character who happened to show the true love which women have upon their children, as she fought with Mnyampala and his friend together with his husband when they came to take their daughter. So he helped her husband onto the fight against the Mnyampala. That portrayed like women have true love over their families and are such supportive creatures or to men. So also, this character has portrayed the theme of poverty, hunger, famine. As you see, she sent Chausiku to go and spy Kinjekitile's residence to see if there is food so that they can beg some. But also we have another character who is Chausiku. Chausiku is brutally assaulted sexually, as she was a young virgin girl who taken to have sex with Askari by force. So you see, she represents the old torture which girl Africans received from colonial governments. Also, we have other characters like Mnyampala. Mnyampala was an African. He represented those Africans who joined the efforts to whites on humiliating and torturing and exploiting their fellow Africans, as he helped the colonialists with their operations. But also we have other characters like those who acted like representatives of the other tribes, like people from Mkichi representing a person from Mkichi representing Mkichi tribe, person from Mgindo, that is Mgindo representative. We have Ngoni, we have a Zaramo representative. All these people represented their tribes on the activities, or maybe on coming back and forth to ask about the movement or the war. For example, the Zaramo representative came to ask whether the Hongo was the same God to whom the Zaramo are worshipping, or is a different God. And he represented the will of the Zaramo people that if the Hongo is different demon from which they worship, so they shall never join the war. And you see, Kinjekitile tells Kitunda to just tell them that the gods, the Hongo is the same God to whom they worship, and they shall join the rebellion and so fight for their freedom. But we have also Askari. Askari is among the self-proclaimed benchmen of the white men who joined the efforts to white men on oppressing, exploiting, and humiliating their fellow Africans. Coming to the themes which has been presented, We have many very themes, but main themes we have colonial oppression and exploitation. As you can see, people are being placed into hard labor with no payments or with very, very little wages. And also another, it is brutality. People has been brutally treated during the farm work. As you can see, for example, Kitunda is severely beaten while trying to stretch his back during the working hour. But also we have we have misuse of religion. As you can see, Zaramo refused to join the movement until when they were assured, like, the god who had the demon which had possessed the Kinjekitile is the same demon to which they believe in. So that is the misuse of religion. Religion was not something to take into consideration while fighting for freedom. We have the theme of poverty and hunger. As you can see, people in the prey are suffering from poverty and the extreme hunger. Also, we have the problem or the theme of tribalism and the disunity. As you can see in the book, people maybe we can say operates under the tribal basis. You can see even the Africans, who are planning to fight against the white, even when in the meeting they start to quarrel and at the extent of fighting each other just under tribal basis, insulting others in the basis of their tribal differences. Also, we have the theme of war. Theme of war in this book has been presented as the only means which could get rid of colonialism in African countries, and it is the very main theme, as it occurs as a motif. It is being discussed just from the beginning, the first page of the book up to the last. We can see the idea of war is being repeated, and so it serves as one among the main themes. Another themes which may be presented, it is the theme of freedom and liberty. You can see theme of freedom and liberty has been placed as a vital thing toward Africans, and as a result, throughout the book they are talking about having their liberty. You can see Kitunda and his friends are discussing about how the Germans shall be paying the Africans for staying in onto their land. Instead, Germans have started to make them pay tax, have started to make them pay him, and also had started to make the Germans had started to make Africans work for them, but they are the ones who shall be paying the Africans for staying onto their land. So the issue of freedom and liberty is that which had led to the necessity of the war, which is being discussed in this book. Coming to the techniques, styles and techniques which has been used, the very first, it is descriptive language. As you can see, the books contains stage directions which uses descriptive language to draw some mental pictures of the environments and of the characters. It has been describing about the mood, about the atmospheric condition, at the situation, and so it had increased the understanding of the readers. Another technique which has been used, it is the use of dialogue. Dialogue is among the very main technique, as it has occupied throughout the book. So this has occupied us throughout the book. Characters are having conversation. The other technique, it is symbolism. Symbolism, we can see they have been used, it has been used just to bring about deep understanding of different things, or deep meaning of different things. For example, water has been used to symbolize unity, love, and salvation. Again, Kinjekitile's prophecy symbolizes resilience and the hope of the oppressed. Like, they still had that resilience and the hope of one day coming free. But another technique which has been used, it is folklore and the mythology. Hussein incorporates elements of Swahili folklore and mythology, especially through inclusion of Kinjekitile Ngwale, who inspired the legendary prophet and resistance leader of Maji. So this guy Kinjekitile, using him, has also proved the use of mythology. You see, Kinjekitile Ngwale is among the very notorious leaders who are living in Africans, and you can say Swahili myths or mythologies. So the use of the character that is Kinjekitile had shown to us that this story has been inspired by Swahili mythology or folklore. Another technique which has been used, it is the use of historical context. You can see from the book has deeply used the historical context, reflecting all the hardships during the German colonial rule in the country of Tanzania, which was then called Tanganyika. And remind you that the war was fought onto the southern part of Tanganyika, which is now known as Kilwa, in that region which is known as Lindi region. The other important thing maybe to discuss is all about imagery. Different images has been used throughout the play, while creating different kinds of mental pictures. For example, the picture of Kinjekitile drowning into the river and coming back from the river while dry, that creates a mental picture on our heads. Again, mental picture of how those people were running onto the battlefields, claiming the Maji war, the Maji words, the water words, water, Maji, carrying their spears. That creates some mental picture. So imagery has been intensively used in the play. Another thing to discuss with you today, it is the relevance of the book to our contemporary society. Our book is very, very relevant to our contemporary society, since the discussed agendas are the real agendas which our dear fellow Africans had passed through during the colonial brutal regime. And also we can say, like, the play remains relevant to us since we are still under neo-colonialism, and we fail to get ourselves out of that just because of being apart from each other's, lacking that unity. You can see Africa now is very scattered. Africa have very many countries, but with the same ancestry, at the extent of failing to maybe to satisfy its citizens with enough needs, just because much of fund is going onto the governmental issues. For example, for now, Africa has more than 50 countries, and you see So one Africa has more than 50 presidents, more than 50 vice presidents, more than 50 minister of every ministry, more than 50 prime ministers. So all the costs maybe would be saved, and it would be used to serve the citizens of Africa, but we fail to do so just under the basis of tribalism and lack of unity. So the book is very relevant to our contemporary society.